Welcome to the Creator's Adventure, where we interview creators from around the world hearing their stories about growing a business. Today's guest is going to share how, while she didn't initially set out to become an entrepreneur, let alone start a business that would involve her creating a mobile app, she has since been able to create a mobile app and coaching community where she has helped more than 50,000 women. Hey everyone, I'm Brian McAnulty, the founder of Heights Platform. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, we're here today with Ashley Nowe. She is a certified pre and postnatal corrective exercise specialist and nutrition coach. Her journey teaching moms to heal was born from her struggle with diastasis recti after the birth of her twins. Ashley founded her Strong Like a Mother Slam, a total body health and fitness app that helped more than 50,000 women stay strong during pregnancy, heal postpartum, and ditch diet culture once and for all. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. My first question for you is what would you say is the biggest thing that either you did or you are doing that's helped you to achieve the freedom to do what you enjoy?
So, my journey was born from my own struggles, like you mentioned in the intro. And so, I just thought if I could help even one person, I think we often have this really big fear that we're not going to focus so much on the outcome instead of the process. So, for me, the way I could
Mm.
justify doing what I was doing was I was like, okay, you got to keep your head down. And just if you're helping one person and changing one person's life, that's one more than if you weren't doing this because it can be hard when you're starting off to, you want to focus so much on the big picture, but it's focusing on those little steps along the way that actually helps keep you grounded.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that's something that I've thought of myself as a way to frame it and look at it when I was starting my business as well. Because yeah, you're right. It's very easy to become discouraged when you're working on your business and you're not there at that big picture goal yet. But if you really think about it, the the idea and ability to just help that one person, like that's so fulfilling even in itself. So working towards that first, I think, is a really powerful way to think about it. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so can you share with us a little bit about the story, how you decided to start your app, Strong Like a Mother, and what really inspired you to create the business?
Yeah, so it was a journey. I had twins. I'd had a singleton before, and I was the typical bounce right back in 6 weeks, no problem. And then my second pregnancy was twins. And I just assumed everything would be the same way. I was a competitive athlete. I had done CrossFit for a long time, and I just thought, I'll bounce right back. That's just how it is. Nothing that a little will and determination can't handle. Well, I had 7 and 6 pound twins, and you guys can't see me because it's a podcast, but I'm built like a teenage boy. I have very narrow hips, and I'm short, and I'm tiny, and so during my pregnancy, I just went straight out and I ended up with diastasis recti. It's a separation of your six pack muscles. And when that happens, you just kind of look pregnant all the time. You can experience back pain. There's a whole host of issues that can come alongside it. I went to my obstetrician and I said, hey, something's not right with my core. I'm doing sit ups and crunches and I see this doming or coning out of my tummy. And she's like, oh, the only solution is surgery. So I was like, okay, well, that doesn't seem one, feasible, and two, like something I want to, get involved with.
Mm.
So I found a pelvic floor PT who helped me heal, and it took years. But once I had started that healing process, I actually called the pelvic floor PT and I was like, hey, Diana is her name. I said, I got to change this. Like, how are we not taught this as women, how to use our core and pelvic floor? So she kind of took me under her wing and let me apprentice. And then I went and got certified so that I could teach this stuff. And it just became my mission to literally shout it from the rooftop. So many women are experiencing either issues with their core, their pelvic floor, they're leaking, they're, having constant back pain. And I'm just on a mission to tell women that they don't have to live that way. So from there, I decided, hey, I'm going to start sharing these tips that I've learned along the way for my own healing journey. And so I started an Instagram account, literally not even knowing how to use Instagram. That's the truth. And I just started posting little tips that help me heal. And it just gained traction over the years because there's a huge market for it, which I knew. I knew I couldn't be alone. And it turns out 2 out of 3 women are dealing with some kind of postpartum side effect. And there's just atrociously little information. And now it's picked up a little bit more steam. It's kind of become a thing more on the internet, but it's still a lot of misinformation. So, really important. And that's what set me on my mission. And then from there, as it built and grew, people were like, hey, we want a program. So I started off with just a web based program as kind of my dipping my foot in the water, just my big toe in the water. And then it went really well. So I was like, hey, we got to build an app. And so we did that and we just launched the app August of last year. And it has been absolutely bananas.
Awesome. All right, well, that's great. I have some, before we get into more of like the app and your thoughts behind building that, um, I want to hear more of like your opinions about like the healthcare, and you mentioned like the misinformation. So, um, I guess I have some opinions about that as well, but like personally, I feel that there's not enough done for like preventative care and like preventing things from happening in the first place. It's always just trying to put a band-aid on something rather than actually fixing the problem. And also like even just like diagnosing things, I think is I don't I don't know the solution. I'm not involved in any kind of medical things, but like from my point of view, like I have a software business, and like with a software business, like if there's an engineer working on something and there's a problem, like you have to not only like give a diagnosis for it, but you have to fix it. You have to find like this is definitely the real problem, and then we have to come up with a solution rather than in the case of healthcare, it seems like it's almost possible for somebody to just say like, well, it could be this, and then it's out of their hands. And I don't want to put a blame on doctors or anyone because I know that they really care about their patients and they want to do the best for them. But I'm curious just how you feel about the whole thing. And is part of your program, is it also dealing with like preventing it or doing certain exercises during pregnancy, or is it just postpartum? I'm just curious generally.
Yeah. So, starting with your last question, yes, I have a whole pregnancy program that I actually built in collaboration with pelvic floor PTs, an obstetrician, and a whole team of birth workers because you can prevent it. You can absolutely be proactive during pregnancy. Of course, a lot of women are coming to me after the fact. Like you said, they have been to their obstetrician. I would say, and this is not an actual statistic, but if I were guessing, I would say obstetricians just don't know where to refer somebody who's having issues. They just say, "Oh, it's the price of motherhood. Oh, your body just changes. It's just the sign
Mm,
of motherhood." And so we are told that it's normal what we're experiencing, when we leak, when we jump, or when we have back pain that just is constantly nagging, like, oh, well, price of motherhood. And sure, there's some things you can't change, right? Stretch marks, loose skin, things like that. We absolutely need to embrace and just learn to love. But the stuff you can fix, it honestly blows my mind that it isn't a part of training in the healthcare system to refer out to pelvic floor PTs. In France, it's actually standard practice to refer out to a pelvic floor PT. And the way I look at it is like if you sprained your ankle, think about childbirth is essentially an injury. If you were to sprain your ankle, you would go get rehab. You would go to PT and somebody would help you do stretches and learn how to move better and to optimize so that one, you don't have an injury anymore, and two, you don't get one in the future. And we're not given any of those tools. You were literally given 1 6 week checkup. You mentioned that your wife had a baby recently. You're given 1 6 week checkup, and they're basically like, yeah, you're good to go. Have at it, if you know what I mean. And that
hmm
is all the information that you're given most of the time. I think obstetricians are trained to keep the mom alive and to make sure the baby is safe. And then after that, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. Like I did my job. I got the baby here and mom is okay. I'm using air quotes here. And so you're sent on your way. So yeah, there's a huge gap, especially with women. I mean, there's actually statistics on that. And I don't know them off the top of my head, but healthcare for women in particular is pretty rough out there and neglected. So I would love to see a shift in that. I've actually had some OBGYNs reach out to me to learn more. And I'm just so appreciative when they're open minded to learn how to help their patients beyond that 6 week, or at least where to refer them if they are looking to get more help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to draw attention to, I like the idea behind your business, not only like starting it from something that you had to struggle with, but starting it from like behind the idea of a way that you can really truly do good to the world and impact people in a positive way. So with that said, and when building this business, can you tell us about some of the challenges that you faced? Because I want to know like what came easy for you, what didn't. From our background, our research, like you've been an athlete, but you weren't necessarily an entrepreneur before this, or were you?
No, I wasn't. I was actually in a totally different field. I was a grant writer, so nothing to even do with fitness. Um, the hardest part for me, to be honest, and I'm sure, and you were in software, so let me just say I appreciate your field greatly, and it's also the hardest thing. It's like, you expect something to go one way, there's always a delay. You're waiting on this, you're waiting for the Apple Store. I literally cried before my app was released when the App Store rejected it over something silly. And it was
Mm,
pretty funny. I was like, trying to be professional. It's like, I'm going to turn off my mic and my camera right now. I just literally need to have a mental health breakdown. So there's all kinds of issues that you just don't see arising when you're in the tech world. And that's a world I didn't plan on being in, nor did I want to be in. Like, I just want to help women. But as you guys know, when you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be, you know, in a little bit of everything to keep the business
mhm,
afloat. So there's a real learning curve. The other thing that I found to be real challenging is, as an entrepreneur, you can't turn it off, or at least I haven't figured out how to turn it off. And maybe you relate, Brian.
mm,
It's 24 hours a day. And, I'm a mom to 4 kids, and it's really hard for me to separate. I don't leave the office at 5 o'clock and say, okay, I'm done. My job continues in all aspects, constantly thinking about it. What could I do better? What should I have done differently? So that's one of the hardest things for me, is setting up a personal boundary. I don't know if anybody out there relates, but I am horrible at that. Um, let's see, what other life lessons along the way? I think that's the one I still have to learn, is how to bring more balance to my life. And then just management of people, of
mm.
staff, of, you're just, it feels like you're juggling a lot of balls, and you just have to decide which ones you can let drop, right? Some of those balls are hopefully bouncy balls and not glass breakable balls. And you have to keep the glass balls in the air and let the rubber balls fall sometimes. And if you're a perfectionist like I am, it can be really hard.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great analogy for entrepreneurship. Definitely. I feel like t this morning I feel like I was thinking about which rubber balls have fallen recently,
Yeah.
because you don't want that to happen. I feel that I'm a perfectionist as well, but you have to be get comfortable with more bad things happening in order to allow for more good things to happen at the same time. So I want to also ask you about really building the community that you managed to build, because it's a massive community at this point. Can you give us a little bit of, I guess, the story behind that and advice for anybody who wants to build their own community?
Yeah. So, community, I think, especially for moms, they always say it takes a village, right? It can be really lonely when you're at home changing diapers and the only person you're talking to is a babbling baby. It honestly makes you feel like you're going to lose your mind a little. So, I knew in building this, I was like, we got to have a community aspect to it. And so, I think what makes our community so special is that my program was really founded um, around what we can gain and not what we can lose. I think a lot of uh, fitness platforms are very driven on weight loss and becoming smaller. And my message to women has always been like, no, we're going to be more, we're going to be bigger, we're going to focus on what we can gain, not what we can lose. And that really permeates through the community. And I think it's given women a sense of freedom when they're sharing their non-scale victories, right? I'm like, throw away your scale. how much heavier weight are you lifting? Does your back not hurt anymore? You're not leaking when you run anymore. So we celebrate all these little victories. So I definitely would recommend like find your niche, find what makes your community special. For us, that's what it is. There's really an element of empowerment and bucking the traditional system that women need to be these tiny, skinny little, bounced back versions of ourselves after having kids. And instead, we go for being these strong, powerful, awesome moms. So the group is insanely supportive. I just used Facebook as the platform to bring people together. There's lots of options. I would love to bring it in house in the app, which is a whole other project. As you know, not an easy thing. But having a community element, no matter how you go about doing it, whether it's in person or virtual, it's going to keep people in your program or product longer because they feel a part of something. It's not just a program, it's, a community and a lifestyle that you're joined together.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think that the community aspect is so important with our software. When I first started building it in 2015, it was years before it was actually released, but the community was immediately something that had to be a part of it because I knew that was really important for like that. So much of the value is there. It's not just the information, but the community and that interaction and the accountability, the connection, everything that comes with that. Um, I'm curious though, so what made you decide to create a mobile app? It sounds like for your particular business, a mobile app is definitely the right way. Um, what made you decide to create that, and and how did that start? From you being someone who's not really, as you said, like desiring to be involved in the tech space.
Yeah, so I started on web in 2020 and we just faced a lot of limitations. So, one, you couldn't keep your phone screen awake. Like, how annoying when you're working out and your phone goes to sleep. So, people would have to go manually switch their sleep mode on their phone. I'm like, this is silly. Also, we had a ton of issues. I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to divulge here. We had a ton of issues on the back end video player systems. One of them in particular, Vimeo was unable to keep the phone awake during the long videos. And I was like, this just does not work. It was just a lot clunkier. I was really hesitant to go the app version because, as you entrepreneurs know, they don't take a small margin of your proceeds when you launch an app. And so I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be, I'm going to feel this. Um, and but we ultimately decided that it was worth it to have a smoother product, and there's just capabilities that you can't get on web that you're going to get um, with an app. So as much as we wanted to stick with more of a web-based app, it just was not as smooth as an actual app. So it's actually been, once we got into the Apple Store, which was a process in and of itself, let me tell you, Google Play, no problem. Apple, I felt like every turn was like ramming into a wall. But ultimately, once we got it up, it has been a lot easier of a user flow. I had a really great UX designer who helped make something that's really smooth and easy and malleable for people. And so when you're working out, right, the most important thing is you want to listen to music and you don't want your phone to go to sleep. So the short answer is like we had to build an app to make those two things happen.
Got it. All right, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think that again, I think it sounds like for your business, the app is definitely the right way to go. We don't offer an app solution right now in our software, but that's actually on purpose because for most creators, I feel like the app is not the right way to go because they don't need the certain kinds of features and things that you're talking about. Also because of the 30% or different amounts that Apple's going to be taking from you, and the headaches that come with the releasing the app that
I'll
as
mention.
you've mentioned, because I know from my background we do have a separate mobile app business, and we've launched many mobile apps in the past, and yeah, the things you'll get rejected for you would have never expected going into it, and it's often that they're wrong. There's a lot of times you have to argue with the reviewers and say like this is fine, like you shouldn't be rejecting it, but it's really emotional and stressful. And for most creators, when you don't need an app, I think it's best to be able to focus on the creation, stay on the web platform where you can release something, you click the there, rather than having to worry about, oh no, Apple's not approving it. But again, I think
I've
for your
never,
case, it
yeah,
sounds like the right way to go.
I've never agreed with something more. If I didn't get cornholed, and I think Apple made it intentionally. Again, it worked on Google. Our web-based app worked well on any Google device, but on an Apple device, your phone will go to sleep no matter what we tried to implement. And so, we searched and scoured chat rooms and consulted other people. And at the end of the day, it looked like it was most likely intentional, right? I think we kind of got pigeonholed into building an app. So if you can stay web based and skip the man, if you will, you should absolutely skip the man because it is, like I said, that was my big business mental health breakdown. I started sobbing because some Apple reviewers decided after everything we had done that they weren't going to approve it. And so then we had to send, exactly like you said, we had to send them a bunch of instances that were actually doing exactly what we were trying to do that had already been approved. And so it delayed the project by weeks. And I would say if you are going to go the app route at any point in time, again, avoid it if you can. If you're going to go that route, you better plan for a huge margin of time that you did not expect.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can tell you from like the apps that we've developed in the past, we've even had some that were extremely similar. The one gets approved, the other one doesn't. And we're not even sure how to react to that. Should we tell them even that the other one was approved? Are they going to reject the other one then? And like you don't even know. But like, and again, like for in my case, like that was our business, building apps and building software. So like, it's not like we're brand new to it either. But yeah, it's still a challenge. So I think you've kind of already answered this, but I wonder if you have any more details to share. Because you mentioned about like kind of your unique selling point in regards to the community and all that and the kind of mission and vision behind everything. But how else would you say that you stay competitive in the crowded market of these other health and fitness apps?
Yeah, I mean, I think mine's very niche in that I'm helping. So it's a total body fitness program. The gap that I found when I was trying to heal my own body is I was like, hey, I really want to sweat and actually get a workout in, but I also want it to be safe for my core and pelvic floor. And there was literally nothing that existed that did both of those things. There was core and pelvic floor programs, but they were so boring. They were like literally put you to sleep. I mean, who wants to sit and do these really nominal little core exercises over and over again? So that's why I decided to build this because I was like, hey, you can sweat, you can have a good workout, you can get those endorphins that you miss while also being mindful of your core and pelvic floor. So I think that sets my program apart. And then, of course, like I said earlier, the community. We just take a totally different approach to fitness in the female space. And that's, we're here to gain muscle and we're here to feel good and to have functional bodies and to celebrate our bodies. You know, your wife had a baby recently and your body changes, but it's worth celebrating. I just wish that was the norm instead of focusing so much on the bounce back. I wish we were focused a lot more on um, what we've gained and how we've changed for the better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, even like I'm not the one who went through it, but I can still just seeing everything is an incredible experience, and I definitely agree with that viewpoint. So
Good. You're a good man.
thank you. Um, so can you share maybe some success stories of women who have used your program and how it's helped them?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. If you go to my website, there's a whole testimonial section, but I mean, it's utterly life changing when you're told, and this isn't to, toot my own horn, but when you're told that your body is just forever going to be broken and that's what you think, and then somebody shows you how you can heal it, um, it changes their whole life. They're able to run with their kids, they're able to jump on the trampoline, able to, play on the monkey bars and do all these things that you just take for granted before you have kids, right? Your body just functions, your body just works, and you think it's going to be that way forever. And then once you have kids, when that's taken away, it's a real loss. And so I think giving that back, like I just feel so lucky that it's what I'm living is to help give women back their quality of life because at the very least after you have a kid I think we deserve to have a really good quality of life still.
Definitely, definitely. All right, I've got one more question for you related to the app and the business. And that is about like your initial strategy when you went to go and launch it and promote it. Can you tell us a little bit about how you did that? Because I'm sure there's people listening to this and say like, wow, that's amazing what you've built, but how do you get from zero to where you're at today?
Well, I'm going to break this down into two pieces. So overall, from like beginning to where I'm at today, and then I'm going to break it down just like the app launching process. So from beginning to where I'm at now, again, I had to have that mindset of even if I help one person, it was slow going at first, right? But it builds traction. So if you're putting out a good product, people are going to share it. They just are. If you are filling a need and a void, they are going to share it. And the community is powerful. So in my community of moms, a mom tells a mom at the park. Another mom is complaining like, oh, I sneezed and I leaked. Oh my gosh. And they're like, oh, you need Ashley's program. And so that word of mouth was really powerful. My business also launched, just as a reminder, during COVID. So it's a home fitness program. I think that that was really beneficial. Not that you can plan a global pandemic, but I think that was really helpful. The silver lining to that whole thing for my own business was that a lot of people were stuck at home, so they tried it. And so I saw great growth right when it started. And then, you know, from to where I'm at now, it's still gaining a ton of traction. I'm really grateful for that. A lot of word of mouth, a lot of pelvic floor PTs and OBGYNs have reached out and refer out to the program. So I would say building your support community. So you're putting information out there. Don't be afraid of social media. I know it's a double-edged sword. It feels like, is anybody even watching these videos? But if you're putting valuable information out there, it is going to get traction over time. It's not going to happen overnight. So keep going, keep being consistent. Reach out to community partners that make sense. In my case, it was pelvic floor PTs who can refer out to your program and know it's there and it exists. And then again, just don't be afraid of failing. I think we focus, again, and I said this right at the beginning, I think we focus so much on the desire to succeed that we miss those baby steps in between. So don't freak out if two people see your post and your program's not taking off the way you want it to. It'll get there. You just got to keep going, put your head down. You got this. In terms of the actual app launch, getting to that point, it was mayhem. I did everything wrong. So I just want to also say I made a ton of mistakes along the way too, and that's human nature, right? You got to dust yourself off. So the mistake I made was I thought it would be done much sooner than it was. So I was promising my community and my subscribers who are on the web platform a certain date, and it got delayed. And I promised a new date. It got delayed. And then the App Store rejected it. And then I sobbed. And then it took more weeks. And so it finally launched at the end of August of this past year. And so I would say that my biggest lesson is don't promise a date until you know that you got all your ducks in a row if you're promising a project. So that was my big mistake. And luckily, people were very patient and very kind about it. I was very open about the process, but I really miscalculated that. And then we launched the app in the app store to make sure everything was good, but we didn't want to announce it to the community. But somebody in the community saw it, so they announced it on the private Facebook page. So it was just like it was the most disastrous launch on the planet. It like got halfway launched before it got really launched, and yeah, so have a good launch plan. Maybe work with somebody who specializes in product launching. That's not me. Don't give them my phone number for that.
Yeah, well, that I think that's a great story though to share. Also to share that even if every single thing goes wrong during that launch, it doesn't mean that your product can't be successful in the long run. And I also like that you gave that advice just to keep going and that you'll get there. And I want to reiterate that point to help everybody understand that because if you're creating this content on social media, if you're promoting your business and you just don't feel that it's really there yet or you're getting the results that you're after, the consistency and continuing with that is so important. And I just want to be another piece of data for you if you're listening to this to hear that it does pay off in the end. And so hopefully hearing that from enough people, you'll feel more confident to go on and keep producing and keep growing and getting better. But what's amazing is once you get to that point that you start to see those little increases where you realize that wow, all of this is starting to pay off. And so I hope that those listening or watching this can stay motivated by knowing that that's coming, and then see when that starts to happen rather than just waiting for the end big result. Because also I would encourage everybody to think that you're building something because, like you said, you want to start off by helping one person and you have this big goal in mind, but like keep that in mind and keep the goal in mind rather than feeling that you have to just be there at that goal right away.
Absolutely. Such good advice. It really is. It's the only way. And, you know, I'd say there's certainly a slice of luck, but the bigger slice of the pie is determination.
Yeah, well, you can't have the potential for that luck if you're not trying, if you're not doing something. So,
Right.
like you said, like you didn't know that the pandemic could actually help mean that more people are looking for a program like yours. But if you didn't launch, then you would have never had the opportunity for that luck to even happen.
It's true. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, I've got one more question for you, and that is that on the show we like to ask each of our guests to ask a question to the audience. So if you could ask our audience anything, whether that's something that you want them to think about, more of like an introspective kind of question, or something that you're just genuinely curious about, what would that be?
Sure. It's kind of the theme of my business, but or business and, what I encourage women to do in the program. So it really kind of needs both. I would ask them to think about what if you could focus on what you'll gain instead of what you could lose. I think too often we're focused on what we could lose and the fear paralyzes us. But what if you put that fear in a little box and tucked it away for just a minute and you focused on what you could gain? What does that look like for you?
Awesome. That's a great frame of looking at it, I think. That's a great question. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ashley. Before we get going, where else can people find you online?
Yeah, so you can find all the details about my program at getmomstrong.com. You can find me in the App Store and Google Play, begrudgingly. And you can also find me on socials. I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok. The handles Get Mom Strong.
All right. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.